So I didn't get to do my weekly recap of my portfolio, and we're only 3 hours away from the market open, but I'm going to do it anyway because I think it's still relevant. Quick recap, the dollar just sideways so far. This week's going to be big. There will be moves. The dollar is really tagging the last remaining resistance I can see before we start touching the 105.5/106 zone in the DXY. And after that, there's really, okay, a pit stop at 107. Otherwise, we're just going straight to the 1, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 20 huge moves up, and that will move the markets. That will decimate commodities. It should anyway, but you never know. Gold and silver can go up with the dollar, and they have a little bit recently. But look, for now, we're just sideways, just dragging lower because there's news. I don't think it's allowed to break out until we have more news justifying it. So I could actually extend this a little bit. That might come into play if we do come down a bit more. But sideways action for now, it's pre-market. I'm going to ignore the markets because the markets, I think they're just going to flush. I don't think gold cares too much. There's you could excuse gold going up or down with them. I would prefer gold going up if the market goes down. I also think that's what might happen. The miners is a different story. It does tend to get influenced by the markets more than the metal, but still, I think if gold starts to go up inversely to the markets, then the metals, the miners may just follow aggressively and outperform the metals as they act in an opposite fashion to the markets. Let's look at interest rates real quickly. So I just made a video. To be honest, I should have made a video before, but I just couldn't. It was a hectic week, so I made one, and already I said, look, the 1 year is pretty strong. We should see continuation. And now, look, it's 2-3 hours later. We've already got a breakout on the 1 year. The 1 year usually isn't that relevant, but look at this. This is obviously relevant. It suggests the shorter yields want to just rise. And I think they will. I think they are doing that. Look at the 2 year. I said we could even close at 5.1. Obviously, things will happen today, but I think it's going to happen anyway. I think we'll have the 2 year closing at, well, it's already closed at the highest level ever during this bear market. And I think to really solidify that 5.1% close, 5.10, that's it. Like 2 years just going to start to really break out, triple top breakout. And that's huge. I mean, the markets have to go down on that. They did last time. Look at this. People ended up buying bonds as the markets collapsed. So the rest, the 5, the 10, the 30, they should follow with a delay. But look at this. This is uninversion, and this is when recession is confirmed, when they uninvert after inverting. So yeah, I think it's pretty dramatic stuff in the yields. So the dollar should go up with yields. And let's just see how the miners and the metals react, because this video is about my portfolio and I'm just covering the miners here. Okay, gold so far, gold and silver just sideways. Let's see. For me, resistance 1940. Thereabouts, plus minus $5. 1920 was a pretty good move from 1885-ish, so that's a nice 35% $35 pop. I expect a bit more. If we come back down, then 1900 should be very weak support. I don't expect it to hold that much, but really the 1880, let's say 4-5 zone should be support. If we flush that, because this is obviously, last low is obviously the main support, then I think 1860-ish, give or take a few dollars. If this goes, then the low, all right, which will be pretty much there-ish, let's say above 1800, 1810, 1811-ish, that should be your support. There's a long way down there. That's more than $50 really. So, or about $50. I don't think we'll get there this week. I actually think we may have a bit of a surprise upside move, but let's see. If the dollar starts to scream up and gold and silver don't follow, then we have to start looking at support on the way down. Silver is very, very strong. I think you could have silver support on the way down. This will be weak support. I mean, the last low of $24, if you have a close below 24, you should go lower. It's hard to call, it might just be round numbers. It could just go straight to 23, round number. If 23 is lost, then all the way down here we should have very strong support, because it'll be a triple horizontal support, but also this ascending which comes out of here, very strong. So for me, $22, I used to say just below 22 because that's where ascending was at the time, but now we're here, so the time element comes in. $22 should be extremely strong support, and that could even come into play with gold at 1860, which I think is not bad. You know, if you have gold making new lows and silver just holding the same lows, so strong. So, and that's a slightly bullish element. You know, whilst the market that you're in goes down, that's a nice sort of silver lining, let's say. The miners, however, would probably go down with gold. I don't think the silver holding up would allow the miners to hold its sort of zone down here. So I think GDX really the next support, if we lose this old 28, 27.3, let's say, if we lose that, then there could be a little fake flush to 20, just below 27, this low down here. You can see a hit there. So GDX should be pretty decent around here. Let's call it 2670 to 2730. That should be decent. Otherwise, if it keeps going lower, 25, and then we'll see all the way down here. I mean, that's really if gold's at 1800 in my opinion. Yeah, but that's very strong support, very, very strong. GDXJ, same sort of thing. Down here, you get sort of support in this region. Let's just move this down there. I'll delete these, not really relevant. Okay, and on the upside, you can see the horizontal lines. That's not really a problem. I look forward to looking at resistance even higher if that's where we end up going. So let's look at the miners in the portfolio itself. Newmont, not the greatest. It's been sort of underperforming for a long, long time, but then again, you have good 4% dividend. I think a lot of bad news is priced in, and I think long term this is a really good buy. I mean, look where we are. It's almost as if gold is at 1800 if you look at the gold chart, the GDX chart that it's supposed to be following. So for me, it's a great buy. Lots of support. Look at this descending one, coinciding with a horizontal, very, very strong. But that being said, look at this underperformance of the GDX. You know, a lot of them were bounced off their low on Friday. So it should be really in the high 38s instead of the low 38 cents. So Newmont underperforming, didn't like that. But again, it's at a very good buy zone. Honestly, if it keeps dipping, and I think that the miners aren't going to go lower, I'll just keep adding to Newmont. It might start becoming a bit too much of an outweighed stock that I hold compared to the others, but so be it. I mean, it's a good dividends and it's a senior beast. It's the #1, I believe. So I wouldn't mind. Look at Barrick Gold, so much better. Look at that hammer, beautiful. So compared to Newmont, much stronger. And again, we need the miners to rally for it to go to its next resistance. For me, the next obvious resistance is really 16, high 16, 1689 is probably a sell. If you're looking to sell, if you think the sector is going to go down. I'm actually ready to hold these seniors a bit more than I initially would. I'm not really up for trimming at the first resistance. It's just the way I feel like playing it at the moment. I feel like we could have a massive strategic move and, you know, I want to hold it a bit longer. Agnico-Eagle, you know, between Newmont and Barrick, not the greatest end of day bounce, but not on the lows. So it's just looking for direction from the miners. But look at this, if we start to move up, quick resistance, I think high 49s, mid 49s, we start hitting resistance, this descending. And if we break out, I think we'll squeeze right through 50 and go to the 52, 50 sort of zone. So I think we have good trend lines in place for Agnico-Eagle. But again, I love this stock. It's probably the best one out of all the seniors, out of all the miners. Wheaton, pretty good bounce, right? It's trying to reclaim this ascending. I think it does actually count this ascending if you look at it. Just sort of flushed it and then hit this horizontal low and bounced nicely off it. So could sort of reclaim it. Next real resistance is 45, sort of 69 zone. And obviously on the way down, you can see the horizontals, 38.30 should be a good buy zone. But if it loses 38.30, maybe 36, and then down we go to low 30s. Pan America, not the worst, fills a little bit of a gap. Just looking for direction. For me, it's $17. That's your resistance on the way up. After that, it's really $18.50. I don't even think $18 is a resistance. On the way down, it would be the low. There'd be $15. And after that, this ascending sort of zone. It's so cheap down here. Remember, it acquired Yamana. So look where you are. You're in a silver beast. Even though I think it produces more gold, they all do now, really. Silver is in such a shortage of supply, of production, really, both. Okay, Aris Mining, pretty nice move here off the low, bounce, didn't even fill the gap, so that's okay. This one's really illiquid, so yeah, you'd look to, I'm up for just holding what I've got here. Nice bounce on this and looking for a move up to 260. I'd probably sell just before. Depends what the sector's doing, but I'm not really up for selling before 260, that's for sure. Depends how long it takes. Yeah, but I like this one. Long term, this should be really good. Mag Silver, one of the ones that I wanted to get rid of a long time ago until they had good earnings. And I thought, okay, it's probably a good buy because it's very cheap. Look where we are. It's still holding this horizontal low. Just needs the sector to perform, and then it should, honestly, it should squeeze way past 1250 because that's where it was going after good earnings. It's just the sector decided to turn against it. So it was forced lower. I love these stocks that are destined to go higher, wanted to go higher, were going higher, but the sector said, no, you're not allowed to. Well, once the sector says, yes, you're allowed to, it should resume and go to 1350, probably a sell at 13. Normally I'd say 39, but this one maybe a bit below 1334. First sell, maybe. I wanted to close my position, but I actually added more on the way down several days ago, maybe even several weeks ago. Might be underwater on that last buy, but since then the sector went lower, so whatever. But I'm looking to sell. I think it could easily get to, 1350, no problem. 1450. If the sector performs, it should really get to 17. But I don't hold as much here as I used to a long time ago because I just lost faith after all the other miners were rallying and this one wasn't. But I'm still in it and added more after earnings, after the drop from earnings. Goldfields, this one surprised me a bit. So first of all, look where it held support perfectly on this ascending line. That was not some random reason. That was because of the technicals. That's where it found support. And look, it just held it 1, 2, 3 days and then started to push higher with great candles. This is with the sector bounce. So, it had bad news. It flushes. It's kind of a sell where it was. But the hypocrisy, I didn't sell. I don't hold much. I didn't buy anything down here, even though I was quite happy to see it abide by my trend lines. But I would normally sell this gap fill. We're pretty much there though, right? What am I waiting for? 1272, so I can say gap is filled. Well, it got to 1260. It's the same thing. Honestly, I was just distracted. Didn't sell my position. I also think that the miners might push a little higher. I'm looking for that 1940 in gold, and I think if we get to 1940, gold feels the way it's been pretty resilient. I think it could actually close the gap, maybe even test 13. If it goes to 13, I might just sell half the position. If it goes any higher, sell the whole thing. Because I find it very difficult to believe Goldfields will now, master some huge run up to 14, 15 after what bad news, after being totally overbought for ages. Look at all the other stocks. Let me just choose any other stock. Look where they are down there. And you've got Goldfields with bad news rallying above its pre-earnings. It's not possible. So for me, I want to see GDX GDXJ run a little bit more, and I'll probably close my position around 13, definitely above. So that's my plan for GFI. And if you don't see Goldfields on my list next week, it means I sold it. Fortuna, this one also had bad news. That's this big red candle. It retested 3 to 310, and I did say 310 is resistance. Look where the horizontal line is, and look, it tagged it perfectly. Just below 309 normally is where they fail, just below the big round number. And now sideways, but look, it could, if the miners master a bit of a run, it could get to really pre-earnings flush, which would be around 320. And there you should sell what you have. But for me, Fortuna is a long-term position, so I don't even know how much I'll sell. I might trim a little bit out of principle what I bought down here. But Fortuna, perfectly abiding by technicals for me. So price support becomes resistance. If the GDX GDXJ rally a bit more with 1940 gold, should get here. I might start trimming then, even though it's a long-term position, just on principle. EXK, yes, closes the gap sideways, not the biggest one, but I think testing 3 makes sense. Nice round psychological number. I still think this can run a lot more. If gold gets to 1940 after coming down all the way with gold, we should get to 330-ish. So I'm waiting for 330, and then I'll even consider selling what I bought down here because this was a nice buy down here. First Majestic, not the biggest bounce, but it didn't go to its absolute lows. This has a lot of technical resistance coming up, so it could have a bit of a squeeze, this one. I'm just something about First Majestic, Keith Neumer, or however you pronounce his his surname. I just feel like you could have a bit of a squeeze. You just need to start climbing to 650. Just not up for trading this tiny range. You know, you zoom out, this thing is a beast if it gets going. I'm talking about multiple 100% moves, or maybe 200%, but I think it belongs at 14 at some point soon. And I just don't feel like selling 650 to buy back 6, you know. But yeah, not the strongest rally so far. So we just have to watch to see what the miners do. CDE, look at this, beautiful once again. Rises all the way to prior support. Look at this support. You zoom in a bit, look at that. Obviously support, obviously resistance. Back down we go. Again, even though I bought this zone, not the absolute low, but the day before, what was it, 233 or 231, whatever. Same thing. I just feel like, I don't know, this one, if you hold it and it really squeezes, you make so much money. Not up for buying 231, selling 260, you know, it's kind of good, 10, 15%, but I'm looking for that 60% kind of, you know, let's have the sector rally a bit more. And CD usually rallies so much. So, and plus it's silver. So if silver starts to rally with gold and the miners, I could see 280. And honestly, I could see a bit of a squeeze. I'd love to see a close above this descending. Discovery, look at that. That's actually quite impressive, Discovery. I didn't add any more because I added, I think, down here in the 60s. And I said, okay, stop. This one could, even though I knew we were at serious support, look at this zone, plus look at the, you know, this descending here. I mean, it all kind of made sense that it was going to have a nice pump, but this is more than I expected, even though it looks very small. You know, 55 to 60 is just 10%, but look how it's holding these gains. I noticed that, you know, a bit like Goldfields, it wasn't even down 1%. It's just sort of holding. And if it starts to pop, this thing could start running to high 60 cents. That's a big move. You know, going from sort of 55-ish, you know, that's 30% almost very quickly. And then it's easy to trade. Then you trim a little bit, it goes a little high, you trim a little bit more, and then you do nothing. Because if it starts closing above this descending, you could start to run. I mean, there's not much resistance. There's a little bit, maybe at 89. That's what I can see. But 89 to $1, that's a big run. I imagine from 55 cents to $1, that's 100%. Okay, that would take a big move in the miners, I think, but I can just see a bit of a squeeze coming here. You know, this is seriously oversold. This is a good stock. So, yeah, and it's just, I don't know, the fact that it held its gains quite well on Friday with a little hammer, that suggests it might run a bit more. Okay, you know, normally I stop there because the others, I consider them sort of more trashy juniors, but I do like Gogold. I don't consider that a junior. It's just one of the ones I followed late. Now that gave back quite a bit, but it had a nice pop there. And yeah, if it runs, I see 129, maybe just before 128 as a nice, if it can clear 120 actually. But Gogold is good. And look, it's been trashed for a while. So just my kind of stock. And K92, which is quite similar. Look at this. Look at this nice bounce, and it's held all the way. This looks like it wants to go to 660 and even higher. So watch out. If the miners start to rally, this one, K92, and it's a good stock. I think we could start testing $7, go straight through 660. All right, that'll do. Look, you know, everything changes this week, so I didn't want to spend too long. But I think the levels I've drawn in, I've had the same sort of levels for a while. I think they speak for themselves. It all depends on the miners, the dollar, interest rates, markets, the usual suspects. So let's see what happens. Good luck.